Good morning. I'm calling the meeting of the State Water Control Board to order. My name is Heather Wood. I'm the chairman of the board. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to silence your cell phones and other electronic instruments that you may have. I do the same myself. Themselves, beginning on my left.
I'm Bob Whalen from Whitestone, Virginia.
Lou Wallace, Southwest Virginia, St. Paul.
Lisa Dean, Midlothian.
Jim Lofty, Green County.
And Heather Wood, Norfolk, Virginia. Also on the stage today is David Palin, Director of the Department of Environmental Quality, and the board's legal counsel, David Grandis, Assistant Attorney General. The only item on today's agenda is the board's discussion of the December 13th, 2018 action on the Mountain Valley Pipeline Section 401 Water Quality Certification, number 17-001. I want to take a moment to discuss what's taken place since the last State Water Control Board meeting in December. We understand the significant concern regarding the amount of time it's taken to return to this issue of a hearing on the revocation of the Upland 401 certification to the MVP pipeline project. It's important to understand that just as the issuance of this type of certification is unprecedented in Virginia, so too is the potential revocation of this certification. These are unique circumstances, and they've never before been considered by this board. The practical and legal issues involved are not necessarily straightforward, as they involve both state and federal authorities, and these matters require significant study and evaluation. In order to discuss them as a board, this special meeting open to the public had to be scheduled. And this special meeting was scheduled as soon as possible based on the group's availability and the availability of the venue and the ability to confirm this venue. I offer this explanation to shed light and transparency on this emerging process that has understandably resulted in uncertainty, frustration, and some concerns. Although we return to this topic in this open meeting today, we have been engaged on the matter since December. 2 of our members have completed multiple site visits out in the field in recent weeks, and they've done this on their own time. I want to briefly explain the roles of the people sitting before you, and those that you always see sitting at these meetings. These individuals represent different entities. They represent the board, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, and the Office of the Attorney General. The State Water Control Board is an independent board comprised of citizen volunteers appointed by the governor. Following state code, we represent the interests of the environment, public health, agriculture, business, land development, and conservation. We represent these various interests, and I believe each of us to be stewards of the Commonwealth, and we do not take our responsibilities lightly. This board has specific responsibilities primarily in the areas of regulatory development and permit issuance, and is required to follow statutory and regulatory procedures to carry out its obligations. While the board acts as one body, each member reaches a decision individually before voting. The DEQ is charged by state law to administer and implement the board's programs and regulations. In helping inform the board, members' individual deliberations, the role of the department is to provide the board with technical advice. The Office of the Attorney General is by law the board's legal counsel. The role of the Attorney General's office in helping inform the board members' individual deliberations is to provide the board with legal advice. The board also receives valuable input and feedback from the public in accordance with the processes and timeframes established by law and regulation. Taking all of this into account, the board then carries out its responsibilities within the boundaries of the authority assigned to it by law and based on the will of a majority of the board. So now we get back to today's meeting. There will not be opportunities for public comment today.
That's too bad.
I would like to advise everyone that conduct that interferes with the conduct of an orderly and efficient board meeting is prohibited and will result in your removal from the meeting. These rules include, but are not limited to, prohibiting the possession or use of noise-making devices, clapping or shouting out, and apply even when the meeting is in recess. I will not go over all the rules that were posted out front with the meeting agenda. The meeting agenda is available from department staff, and it should still be some on the table. Also, if you need to leave during the meeting and wish to return, you may be required to wait outside, depending on the seating in the room and the capacity. Before the board begins its discussions, I would like to briefly address the closed meeting item shown on the agenda for today's meeting. Whether or not a closed meeting is held is a decision of the board. A closed meeting was shown on the agenda in order to give notice to the public that the board may go into a closed meeting. The procedure for a closed meeting and what topics can be discussed are established in the Freedom of Information Act. If the board decides to go into a closed meeting, the sole purpose of the closed meeting would be to consult with legal counsel. Before going into a closed meeting, the board will adopt a motion stating the purpose and legal authority of the closed meeting. When the board has concluded its discussion in the closed meeting, the board must return to open the meeting and adopt a motion to end the closed meeting. We will then return to open session and certify that the closed meeting and discussions were in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act. Also, it's important to note that the board cannot take action on matters legally discussed in any closed meeting except during an open meeting. Now we have before the board discussion of the board's decision of the December 13th, 2018 action on the Mountain Valley Pipeline Section 401 Water Quality Certification, number 17-001. And I open this to the board's pleasure. What say the board?
Madam Chair, because of the distance that I have to travel, I really would like to go into closed session. So I'm going to move that the board goes into closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation, and section 2.2-3711A8, the consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel concerning the board's legal authorities and procedures for reconsider of the section 401 water quality certification for the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And I would also like to add that we have available for staff to be able to be called in as needed. But I would like to request that Cindy Burt and David Grant, the attorney, go in with us.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Go into closed session. It's closed meeting. May I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I hereby move that the board end its closed meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in this closed meeting to which this certification applies. And number two, only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by this board.
May I have a second? Second. When we come out of closed meeting, we call for a roll call vote.
Hang on one second. Oh, I'm well enough. Mr. Zutsky? Here. Mr. Hayes? Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Dean? Did I hear you?
Yes.
I did. Thank you. Mr. Lofton?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's unanimous.
Thank you for those of you that afforded us this time. And, I want to reiterate my comments from earlier this morning about this is a unique situation and one that has not been, addressed by this board before and may not be addressed again, who knows. But at this time, I'd love to entertain any discussion or statements from anyone on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me just say I had an opportunity to go out to the pipeline right-of-way with DEQ, with MVP staff present, and was able to see a number of the erosion and sediment control measures in place in the right-of-way, which I believe would have been beyond the authority of the board absent the actions taken at the time we certified the MVP project. We were there, Mr. Lofton and I, after a not insignificant rainfall, and were able to see a number of measures in place and apparently working effectively. We also are aware that there are circumstances in which those measures are not fully effective in retaining all sediment on site, and where sediment leaving the site is significant and ongoing. The DEQ protocols are for inspection, monitoring, and requirement for corrective action. I was not able to accompany Mr. Lofton on a subsequent visit where he saw other aspects of the site. He may wish to talk about those later. But I believe that we have required through the upland certification a variety of requirements and measures that otherwise would not be applicable to a project of this site. And I think somebody had a listing, was it you, Ms. Dean, who had a listing of, or perhaps Jim, of those which I just thought it would be beneficial for us to review one more time for the sake of those who are present at the hearing today. Yeah, would you please?
Mr. Lofton, if you turn on your mic, I think you have one of the push mics.
Yes, let me say that I had the opportunity to go out to the site on 2 different occasions, and I had deep concerns about what I saw, especially the second time I saw sediment and erosion controls failed, or where there was sediment that was escaping from the right of way. I'm deeply concerned about that, but I am also deeply concerned that the board simply does not have authority to revoke the authority on certain issues. I have looked at the statute, and based on the advice of counsel, I do not think that the board has authority to revoke this federal certification.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you that any clapping or conversation or outburst is grounds for dismissal from this room. So I please ask you to allow the board to speak.
When are you going to start working on your bylaws? Let's go.
it's not helpful if you misbehave from the audience. The board is very sympathetic to the landowners and the people that are opposed to the pipeline, but I am concerned that we would lose the additional protections that we have that is in the certification.
Going freely on my own will, you don't need to touch me.
I'm deeply concerned that we would lose these 16 conditions that are in the 401 certification if we attempt to revoke the certification. And I'm going to go through these. The conditions that were included in the certification include riparian buffer requirements that are above and beyond what might be necessary or what might be required, karst terrain requirements, surface water withdrawals that are not part of the federal permit, hydrostatic water tests, implementation of water control monitoring in accordance with the Upland Construction Water Quality Monitoring Plan, measures identified in the spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan, construction and installation associated with the project, except as permitted, shall be accomplished in a manner that construction material or waste shall not be placed in any perennial, intermediate, or ephemeral surface waters or karst features. That is only half of the 16 different requirements that are in the certification that we possibly could lose if this certification is revoked or we attempt to revoke this.
We're losing our water. Would someone please take me away, because this is so,
Again, I
such a
simply
terrible
cannot find
violation of my
that the board has
protections. My water,
authority to
my
revoke
water.
this federal
You're
certification.
pushing me. Don't push me. Don't touch
Madam
me.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a
You're too
motion.
big.
My motion is to withdraw the action taken by the board at its December meeting concerning revocation of Section 401 certification of Mountain Valley Pipeline on advice of council and in consideration of the enforcement actions by the Attorney General. The board notes that there are significant questions about the board's authority to revoke certification under Section 401 of the Clean Water Act. We urge swift and vigorous prosecution of the enforcement action by the Attorney General.
Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Jasinski. Discussion?
Let me also say that the board is determined to have vigorous enforcement of the state action.
Do your job! Do your job!
And we also believe that the public should be involved at some level in that enforcement action, and we hope to reach out to the public.
Our concern, we have a motion on the table, is there further discussion? I have a few comments. I believe, our concern with this is that revocation of the certification handcuffs the Commonwealth's ability to apply any enforcement on this pipeline.
You didn't know that.
And, to us, it is very serious, and we want to make sure that there is every available tool to us to be able to enforce actions.
And celebrate
At this
that you're
time.
breaking our water system? Don't touch me, I'm
You need to pile up all these men at the bottom of the hills to hold the
So
water.
if I may,
That's the best use of these men, is pile them up at the bottom of the hills to hold them on back.
I believe we have a motion on the table. If I may call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
You're a bunch of cowards. You really are. We're ashamed that you are.
At this time, I'd like to
Shame on you.
adjourn.
Shame.
This meeting is adjourned. I ask that you please immediately leave the room.
Shame on you, Jim
At this
Hawkins.
time, we ask that everybody please clear the room.
Stand by, okay? Times to move. Real nice.
We just gonna hold the line, guys. Just hold the line. Yeah, work. As long as they're going.
So bad, nobody even wants to replace you. Maybe you should know better. You've been lied to.
We don't fault you guys. The lies were sold somewhere else. We don't fault you guys. The lies came from somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm
Just doing our jobs.
Shame on you.
That's why I'm kind of confused as to how I'm supposed to.
There's a criminal investigation, a criminal investigation. You all need to clear the room, the meeting's over. Thank you.
So you can issue a permit, but it can just never be revoked. Once it's issued, it's just there. That makes no sense whatsoever. Attorney General Herring is doing exactly what Cuccinelli did to the board. This is the board of health a few years ago.
Get your line to move up one road. Get your line to move up one road.
got to move them chairs. Move up one road.
Bull Road. Let's go.
Well, then, hey, Philip, do you have somebody with you? I know, but you training somebody now?